Our next presentation with Professor Veena Sahajwalla. Veena is an internationally recognised materials scientist, engineer and inventor, and she has been revolutionising recycling science. She is renowned for pioneering the high-temperature transformation of waste in the production of a new generation of green materials, and that is being done across the road at the University of New South Wales, NSW's Sustainable Materials Research and Technology Centre, that stands for SMART. How cool is that? Where she is the founding director. She is the inventor of polymer injection technology, which is known as green steel. It is an eco-friendly process for using recycled tyres in the production of steel. Veena is the director of the ARC Industrial Transformation Research Hub for Micro-Recycling. They are a leading national research centre that works in collaboration with industry to ensure new recycling science is translated into real-world environmental and economic benefits. Last year, she was featured on ABC TV's Australian Story, and she was named the 2022 New South Wales Australian of the Year for transforming the way that we manage waste here in Australia and around the world. And if that is not impressive enough, a month or so ago, she appeared on Play School. Wow, we have absolute rock stars with us. She was on a Play School segment very, very recently teaching kids about recycling. Google it, it is absolutely fantastic. Due to her obvious obsession for not throwing out recycling things, but encouraging people to actually recycle rubbish, Veena's husband and her children describe her as, quote, a mega hoarder or a rubbish cop. Either way, it is fair to call her rubbish royalty, which was why she is also called the Waste Queen. But she is, as you're about to hear, a lot more than the Queen of Waste. She is the wise and wonderful waste warrior. There's a bear in there. Please welcome Veena.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Wow. Okay, mega hoarder. Yeah, that's right. I take my rubbish with me wherever I go. But I'll tell you a bit about why this is in my hands. And I do want to first and foremost acknowledge Katya, Michelle, and all those amazing, amazing volunteers here at the Social Goods Summit. I have to say, it's been an inspirational morning for me, chatting to so many people and really just getting to see this incredible sort of work that's happening in Australia and the passionate people across the world who are tuning in. I want to, of course, start by acknowledging the traditional owners, Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose land we are, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and the care for our land that they have been doing for a long time. From our point of view, the responsibility now is with us, upon us. When we think about sustainability, we think about waste, and of course the kinds of things that we're trying to do at the Smart Centre is look at how we can bring these solutions to life. Are we able to actually create sustainable products from waste? And so therefore I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story of my beautiful green ceramic tile. And this is where passion, science, technology, engineering, all of that comes together at the Smart Centre. We've got incredible, incredible professionals, scientists, engineers, people who are all really committed to bringing their heart and their heads and their hands together at UNSW and working in collaboration with industry partners to create microfactories. And yes, that's right, we actually have demonstration microfactories at UNSW, and like all good things, it's in the basement. So we don't make music in the basement, but we certainly make all kinds of beautiful products across the road in the basement. But now the good news is that we have actually taken these microfactories out into communities. And indeed, last year, one of the first ones that we did in green ceramics was in Cootamundra. And I'll tell you a bit about why Cootamundra and, of course, what are we doing. But to just reflect for a moment that ultimately, you do need science, technology, engineering. You need all of these skills. You need people who actually can look at how community needs can be delivered through these products, whether it's about making our homes, whether it's our infrastructure, whether it's about electronic devices. So recycling and making things, manufacturing, all has to go together. So if you have to achieve circular economy and circular solutions, we've got to, of course, start to see how we might be able to take all kinds of materials and bring them back into production. But how do you do that in a way that you can actually regionalize, you can reduce that carbon footprint of moving things around? We want to be able to localize and regionalize these kinds of solutions, and hence microfactories. So this kind of collaborative effort that we've been working towards is about how we can see small businesses, how we can see local governments, how we can see research, technology developers, industries all coming together. And if we are in this circular economy solution, thinking about how materials can be transformed, how we're going to all work together, we need to actually see how we're going to play a part. So whether it's about us and our waste, like in this case, we've got some waste glass and waste textiles being manufactured in our microfactories, and then, of course, as users, we can start to inspire our friends and family and our communities to ask the question as to how we secure our products. Where do they come from? Do we know that we're sourcing ethical materials? Do we know we're sourcing ethical products? All of these are questions that we can all play a part in asking. So ultimately, when we talk about recycling, it's actually sort of saying, well, if you've taken, soft fabric, waste textiles and glass, and you've actually converted it into something that looks nothing like what the original materials look like, we're sort of moving beyond recycling. What we are saying is that we're doing now what we're calling the 4th R. And yes, we have to reduce, we have to reuse, we have to recycle. We've got to do all those things that we know are important to do, and we can take those actions locally. But what happens when you've got complex materials like those in our phones, like those in our various types of batteries, and the list goes on and on? We are now starting to think about what we're calling this 4th R of reform. So we're saying that actually if our materials could be transformed into different kinds of resources and products, and even better if we could do that in these microfactories, and even better if these microfactories could actually be deployed in our communities and working with local businesses, taking that skill set that we have, whether it's around developing beautiful homes, designing new products, whether it's about actually running factories, all of this could come together, and we could show that it is actually possible to have solutions where we can start to talk about green manufacturing. And in this case, what you're seeing there is our waste plastics, which we've converted into plastic filaments at NSW in our basement, as I said, and we've used that for 3D printing. And as you can see in this picture, you're actually starting to look at the opportunities that we could be deploying these different kinds of solutions in our local manufacturing spaces. So imagine the ripple effect this could have on that local economy. A local manufacturer could easily set up a supply of materials coming from recycled content into 3D printing in a small microfactory and supplying to local needs of communities. And of course, why stop there? Start to regionalize those solutions. So from our point of view, all this is pointing to the fact that we do know that it is possible to align now recycling and manufacturing. This is about how we bring things into action. This is how we bring solutions into our societies, into our communities. Imagine all of those regions that would have never imagined that you could actually have manufacturing, you could have production, but now suddenly it's all possible. Because we're saying if we think holistically, we can actually have fit-for-purpose recycling and manufacturing. What that then means is that it's not just that recycling is the end game. Recycling is the beginning, because we're then giving next life to a product. And of course, we shouldn't stop there. We should continue to give next lives and further lives to our waste materials and these products that can go back into manufacturing. So for instance, in this case, If we've said that we're creating a green ceramic product, and this is meant to go into housing applications, well, it's got to be engineered. It's got to have the right properties. And that's the important connectivity between recycling and manufacturing, so we can start to make a real difference. And this is an example of another microfactory at NSW, where we can show, for instance, in this case, a lot of the work that we're doing in terms of recycling e-waste, like, for example, our phones. And what we're doing there is we're actually producing metallic alloys. So you can see that micro furnace at the back of that e-waste microfactory. This e-waste microfactory is able to show that you can indeed produce really high quality metal alloys. Why metal alloys? Why copper? Why nickel? Why all of this? Well, these are all the important metals that we need if we are going to take the world towards decarbonization. How are we going to get there? We are going to have to find sustainable materials that come from recycled content, but we're going to have to do it in a way that we actually can show that we're reducing our carbon footprint, and we're creating those local jobs. We're enabling economic benefits, environmental benefits, and of course, as a result of that, social benefits for our communities. So indeed, this is why we see microfactories as a solution, so we can start to develop a whole new range of products. So in this case, pile waste glass, for instance, whether it comes from our cars or indeed our building, and of course, a whole range of other opportunities. Likewise, we've got waste textiles. How do we take those two, bring that together? And of course, the example of green ceramic that I'm talking about is about ultimately showcasing that it does work in the real world. This is an example where we've actually put it into an apartment where you can see in that kitchen splashback and that island bent face, we've got that furniture, which is that table that you see in the photo. All of these have been made in our microfactories. So imagine your local communities, your regions can actually start to divert that waste away from landfill into these incredibly amazing products. Imagine if you're a designer, if you're a manufacturer, if you're somebody who is building these homes, you could actually start to have these types of sustainable solutions where you could take these local resources and start to create these beautiful products. And of course, you can tell from this picture and this beautiful tile here that you can create all kinds of lovely products that are not just engineered to do the job, but they are actually reflecting the passion of people who have brought in this particular case, a pair of blue jeans, for instance, that can go back into these types of products. And all of this is an example of how, if nothing has to actually go to landfill, if we're actually creating these solutions, are we all prepared to use them? Are we committed to make a real difference so we can support local enterprises, so we can support our regions to flourish? And here's another example of what we have installed in one of the apartments, where this beautiful feature wall actually demonstrates that it is actually possible to be able to create incredibly amazing products. And this microfactory, I have to acknowledge New South Wales State Government, where the Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer supported through the physical sciences funding, this microfactory that allowed us to take that journey of doing a demonstration unit at the university, doing the trials and the testing, and then of course showing the pathway to how we can set it up in a real world setting. So our ability to actually show that it is possible to take science, technology out from labs into real-world production. An example of this regional microfactory in Cootamundra means that we are showing that effectively passionate people coming together, our incredible industry partners who are actually running this microfactory, Can-Do-It Technologies, people like Andrew who actually saw something like this and said, I'd love to do this. And I think that's what it is. It's about all of us coming together collectively and really taking on this challenge of how we address waste recycling in a way that creating value from waste is something that becomes a norm. And we look at that in the future and we go, wow, aren't we really looking after our environment? Aren't we really looking after people? So therefore, ultimately, it's good for our people and good for our planet. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.